I never thought this build could be this much fun. Unleash the bear power and dominate in both PvE and PvP after the huge buff in patch 1.13. Guys, this build is insane and probably broken. It's like playing on easy mode if you use it right. Even if you're not a fan of close range combat, the mobility and stagger attack makes it easy to get in, deal massive damage, and get out. Plus the Ash of War combo, absolutely devastating. Like, come on, look at what it does to players and bosses in the base game and the DLC. Quick warning, if you have not played the DLC by now, you will see some DLC footage and some spoilers. So let's go, game on. This insane bear build is pretty simple and yet super powerful. It's basically all close combat playstyle, focused on multi-hits and combos with the weapon Ash of War. The weapon is a Beast Claw weapon type, similar to claw weapon from the base game, except the movesets are different and allows you to start attacking with great mobility, moving from mid-range to close range easily. They have a new feint moveset that can be used charging the strong attack and then pressing dodge button, and will do an attack while doing a jump backwards. This weapon has bloodlust buildup by default, but I don't use any bleed talisman or anything because I feel like using talisman that focus on multi-attacks benefit more than bleed ones. But let me know in the comments below if you have tried a bleed build with this weapon. The strong attacks are really powerful, doing stagger damage that can be pretty useful to chain more combo attacks, or the Ash of War combo that is pretty devastating if you hit all the attacks. What I try to avoid is the normal attack, especially on tougher enemies or bosses because of the low damage. But the attack sequence is awesome to watch and can work if you need to finish off an enemy. What I usually do with this build is do a strong running attack or a charged strong attack to start off. That way I can reduce the distance to the enemy or use the feint move if the enemy got out of reach. And if I connect those strong attacks, I follow up with a chain Ash of War attack that can slash 3 times, doing massive damage. And if you're buffed with Golden Vow, Flame Grammy Strength, and the Physique Flask, you will skyrocket your attack, dropping their health like it was a bleed build when the game launched. For long range or enemy swarms, I use beast incantations that get the job done. So now you know how to play it, let's see all the armaments starting with the main weapon. For this bear build, there is no other weapon than the Red Bear Claw, a Beast Claw weapon type, new to the DLC with only physical damage, that at max level scales B with strength and D with dexterity, with low attributes requirements, with 20 strength and 10 dexterity, with 45 bloodlust buildup. You don't need to get another one to dual wield because like claw weapons in the base game, you will equip 2 when using it. This weapon got a PvP buff in patch 1.13, increasing the poise damage of normal attacks, which you might want to use often in PvP. The Ash of War of the Red Bear Claw is called Red Bear Hunt, and it does massive damage and good stance damage with the powerful slashes it does. It's a chain 3 attack combo, first with the right claw slash, then hitting the button again, does a left claw slash, and hitting the button again does a final slash with both claws. This Ash of War got buffed in patch 1.13, increasing the attack power and the poise value, so I recommend this weapon even if you're not a fan of close combat. The Red Bear Claw can be found in Northern Nameless Mausoleum after defeating the Red Bear boss located inside. To get to it, you need to go near Templetown Ruins, starting from Scadu Altus. Remember that you need to defeat Relana or use the Spirit Spring in the video in the upper right corner to skip this fight and get to Scadu Altus. So from North Ruins, you go northeast to this lake with the tunnel passage that will lead you to Templetown Ruins, and follow this path. So before reaching Templetown Ruins, on the left you will find a Spirit Spring that, if you don't have it activated yet, keep going forward until you find a pile of rocks and destroy it to activate the spring. This spring will lead you to the northern nameless mausoleum. The rest of the armaments of this build is a claw mark seal that will boost all bestial incantations by 10%, which I'm using on this build. To keep with the bear theme, not only for the looks, for the increase in attack power as well, and get to more than 51 points, I'm using the pelt of Ralva as helmet. Armor, gauntlet, and greaves are from the Raksasha set that will increase by 2% the damage taken and the damage dealt, so it will increase all damage by 6% and can be found in Eastern Nameless Mausoleum. And the pelt of Ralva will increase the Roar of Rugalia incantation by 15% and not the bestial incantations. It's obtainable when you defeat Ralva, the Great Red Bear boss in Scadu Altus. It's on this lake area, so if you start from High Road Cross Side of Grace, you need to follow this path north, then turn east when reaching the enemy camp before Shadow Keep. The talismans of this build will enhance multi-hits and the Red Bear Hunt Ash of War, starting with the Shard of Alexander to increase the attack power of the Red Bear Hunt Ash of War by 15%. Next is the Rotten Wing Sword Insignia that increases attack power relative to the number of attacks you land. The tiers are 6%, 8%, and then 13%. With the slash combos, you will surely have these tiers up at all times. Next is Millicent Prosthesis that will increase dexterity by 5 and will increase attack power like the Rotten Wing Sword Insignia, but the tiers are 4%, 6%, and 11%. And the last talisman is Dragon Crest Great Shield that will reduce by 20% your physical damage taken. But if you can live without it, then I would recommend the Two-Headed Turtle talisman because this build eats a lot of stamina if you go crazy with the attacks and the Ash of War. For the physique class, I'm using Thorny Crack tier to keep enhancing the multi-attacks of this build and works in similar fashion like Rotten Wing Sword Insignia and the Millicent Prosthesis and stacks with them as well. But the tiers are 9%, 13%, and 20% and last 3 minutes. And last is the Blood-Sucking Crack tier that will increase damage by 20% but drains your life and lasts 3 minutes. This tier is the cherry on top of the cake of this build to do insane damage. You just have to be careful and get your life up at all times. For buffs, I got Golden Vow to increase all damage by 15% and all damage negation by 10% for 80 seconds. Next is Flame Grant Me Strength to increase the physical damage by 20% and it lasts 30 seconds, since the damage from the Red Bear Claws is all physical. For offensive incantations, I use the Roar of Rugalia that does damage at a nice range with poise damage as well and very low 14 faith requirement and a low 17 FP cost. It got buffed in patch 1.13, increasing the poise damage and attack power. It's dropped by Rugalia, the Great Red Bear, in this location. And the rest is the bestial incantations like the Beast Claw to do a semi-frontal attack at mid to long range to enemies or players, but not bosses. Next is Gurank's Beast Claw that I use against swarming enemies in PvE. And last is the Stone of Gurank that I use as a sniper to get enemies from afar. The main attributes of this build are strength and dexterity, because the Red Bear Claw scales B with the strength and D with dexterity. Although I'm running with the Wretch class, if you want to start from scratch, I recommend a hero or a vagabond with high strength and dexterity. This level 150 character has the following attributes spread. Vigor at 55 because the DLC enemies are tough and you need a good base health. Mine at 29, this will result in a decent amount of FP points to use buffs and still have enough to abuse the Red Bear Hunt Ash of War. Endurance at 20 to get to a decent stamina pool and enough equip load to get to mid load. Strength at 60 to deal more damage with the Red Bear Claw. Dexterity at 25. If you get more than 150 levels, I would add points here after capping the strength at 80. And no points in intelligence. Faith at 25 to be able to cast Golden Vow, and no points in arcane either. With the buff in patch 1.13 of the Red Bear claw damage and poise of normal attacks in PvP, the Red Bear hunt as a war, and the Roar of Rugalia power attack and poise damage in PvE, this build is borderline broken with insane damage. When all of this is stacked together, Golden Bow, Flame, Grammy Strength, all the multi-attack talismans and the tier, the Shard of Alexander, and to top it off is the Blood-Sucking Crack tier. The damage is indeed massive with fun movesets, so this build is a must when you play Elden Ring DLC. So don't sleep on it, even if you're not a fan of close combat. I'm not a fan of close combat, and I found this build really fun and really powerful. So guys, if you like this build, you know what to do. Like and subscribe to help the channel out, and I will surely see you on the next one. Take care. Ciao.